are. For tonight's session, we're going to do it slightly different. We will have a workshop first, and once we are done with the presentation of the workshop, then we will go to our panel members. We've got 𝗏𝗏𝗏 team members with us here. Lindo, I will give back to you so you introduce 𝗏𝗏𝗏 to us as they step towards to present for us a workshop.
Thank you, Mbu. So 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is an organization that we've recently teamed up with as Women in Mining SA, and we are quite happy with our partnership and collaboration. They are an NPO. They are based in Gauteng, but mostly work in the Midrand Tembisa area. They will be introducing themselves more and the work that they do. But what we as Women in Mining SA found to be a value proposition or intriguing about the work that 𝗏𝗏𝗏 does is that they charge at the rate at which you are able as a client, which they will really deep delve into. But in line with tonight's theme, with the anecdotes versus the reporting, we thought let us bring in that healing aspect, because 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is a counseling and therapy organization. So like I indicated, you may not report, maybe because you are not able, or you don't trust the system, or you're just not comfortable yet. But something has happened to you. Maybe you are not reporting because you feel, oh, my organization wants us to report harassment or GBV at HR, and I do not feel safe with doing that, or I feel it's not confidential enough. So when we have such situations, most of the time then the survivors, or rather the victims of gender-based violence, never start with their healing journey. Because I want everyone online today to understand that when a person reports a case or a matter, the primary thing for them is having access to justice. You don't report for fun. You report because you want something to happen. You report because you want to see action and justice being served, because an injustice has been done to you. But oftentimes, people do feel as though the justice aspect is not carried forward, maybe in our organizations or even generally as a country. A lot of people do not trust the systems that are in place. People don't even trust the police. So it's a problem when you have not been able to report a matter, and so you sit with it. And that is where NPOs that are in our host communities and external to our operations come in, that do not allow, not being able to report or not being comfortable with reporting stop you from starting with your journey of not just healing, but understanding what has happened to you, so that you can make sense of it and then be able to navigate it the best way possible. And that is why we encourage operations to have external organizations that they can work with, and external reporting systems that they can employ, so that their members of staff can report within that particular place. So that's where the healing comes in. You have not reported formally, or you have reported formally, but you want someone to speak to. You want a ventilation space. You want a safe space where you can be heard and understood. That's where organizations such as 𝗏𝗏𝗏 then come in as the stronghold and the center that holds for those that really need that beacon of hope to shine for them. So with that introduction, we would like for the speaker from 𝗏𝗏𝗏 to introduce themselves and then blow us away with their presentation tonight.
Good evening. Lindo, thank you so much. And Mbu, thank you for having us, all of you. Such a privilege to be here tonight. My name is Kathy. I'm the CEO and the counselor at 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Counseling Center. And I'm going to give over to my two colleagues just to quickly introduce themselves, please, guys.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Lee. I'm the corporate relationship consultant for 𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'm involved in CSI funding and relationship management. And I'm a big fan of these two wonderful ladies, Kathy and 𝗏𝗏𝗏, who not only run the organization, but are at the heart of the organization, providing all the counseling.
Hi, my name is 𝗪𝗂𝗍 𝗪𝗂𝗍. I'm the CEO of the COO of 𝗪𝗁 and a counselor as well. Thank you for having us. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to come and share with you what we do, the things that we are passionate about. Thank you. Over to you, Kathy.
Thank you, ladies. I'm going to just share my screen. We'd like to tell you a bit about 𝗪𝗁 this evening and touch on some important points. So I hope that you can all see my screen. Is that
Yes,
okay?
we good to go.
Okay, great. 𝗪𝗁 Counseling Center is, as we've said, based in Midrand. We started in 2020. We actually started dreaming up the idea of 𝗪𝗁 before COVID hit. And then COVID hit and we had to stop. And so October was the soonest we could open our doors. We were commissioned by Christchurch Midrand to lead the charge in addressing issues, bringing healing to the space of trauma and abuse. And so it's been a privilege to be able to serve in this area for the last almost 6 years now, trying to be professional, or trying to give care that is professional, that is holistic, that is values-based, and that really meets the need of individuals and people within our community. Ultimately wanting to see communities transformed as people are cared for. And this is important. Why? Because the situation in South Africa is dire. We've all heard of gender-based violence. We've all heard of the impact that it has. It doesn't shy away from anybody based on their economic status, on their cultural group, on where they're located. Gender-based violence affects everybody. In fact, our stats show that about a third of women in our country over 18 will have experienced some kind of physical violence in their lifetime. And so that gives us a very clear picture of about 7 million women in South Africa currently who've been affected by gender-based violence. So it's prevalent. A third of women in our country who've experienced some things like rape would develop post-traumatic stress. And we'll talk a bit more what that means. But if you're not cared for, if interventions don't happen, if not treated, then it results in depression, and suicide ideation, substance abuse, and in cases of it happening to men, it will result in substance abuse, depression, and suicide as well. So it's something that we need to be addressing. We need to be proactive in. Just to look at the statistics in our country, just look further at other attempted murders and assaults within our country. In 2024, in the last quarter, we have just over 1,600 attempted murders, and the stats have stayed the same. These are, of course, women that have survived those attacks. This is not mentioning those who haven't survived. Assault and harassment were occurring all the time in our country. In fact, assault to induce harm on someone's body is the most prevalent in South Africa. And it's indicated in a 3-month period in late 2025, there were 32,000 cases recorded. And that's about an average of 365 serious assaults on women every day in our country in that 3-month period. And of course, these are only the assaults that are actually reported, right? And what is significant is that many of these, 35% of these assaults actually happen within an intimate partner relationship context, which we call domestic violence or domestic assault. No country is free of gender-based violence, and we see the same stats. 1 in 3 women globally are experiencing violence in their lives, either non-partner or partner violence throughout their lifetime. And so every woman everywhere is affected. So I would like to tell you a bit more about 𝗪𝗁. Our mission is to be a refuge of hope and transformation to our communities through providing value-based counseling. We are diverse in how we anybody can come through to us, no matter your religious, social, economic background. And it's important that we care for all people who experience abuse, who experience trauma. And we're wanting to care for people in the space of individuals, of couples, families. Why? Because we want to see our communities changed and transformed. We want to see abuse ending in our country, and we are passionate about making that happen in different ways. And one of the ways that we are passionate about making that happen is that we also care and rehabilitate perpetrators. 𝗓𝗠 means mercy. Mercy means undeserved favor. And so we believe that we can't just care for this victim and not address the perpetrator. We want to see a whole picture transformation in our country. So what do we offer? What is our focus? We focus on all the contributing factors to trauma and abuse, and whatever they may be, different forms of abuse, crisis pregnancy, substance abuse, suicide, ideation, gender-based violence, harassment. We're wanting to be holistic in how we care for people. And so we have, we work really hard in making sure our counselors are well-trained and qualified and specialized in trauma. We're an NPO, and so we do what we do with what we have, but we work, that's our priority. How do we give the best we can possibly give to those people that come through the door? And that's why our counseling is comprehensive, and that we do a variety of different approaches to trauma care. We're a value-based and psychosocial approach in our counseling, and we are continuously upskilling, as I said earlier. We also have small groups available, so we don't just care for people in the space of counseling, we care for people in creating a space where support and healing can happen as we find a sense of family together. And then also we're passionate about having a robust referral system. So we want to be able to say, okay, this is what we offer, but when you need support beyond that, we want to be able to refer you to the right caregivers to be able to do that. Last year, we were privileged enough to have 395 counseling sessions throughout the year, and that equates to roughly 600 hours of counseling support that we offered last year. And these are some of the stories of some of the people who have been at 𝗓𝗠, experienced care and healing here. So this first survivor is a survivor of domestic abuse. She and her children had been in the space of abuse for many, many years, and finally she found the courage to step out and say something and get support. In fact, it wasn't as much saying something, but it was first about coming to counseling, just like Linda said earlier, get help, get support. And this is what she did. And in the beginning time, it was really difficult. It was really hard, and realizing and becoming aware of what was happening to her, mourning, grieving the pain. What she said was 𝗓𝗠 was my ventilator in the time that I found breathing difficult. Really just trying to think of how to get through this. And she is now in a much better place. She's safe. The family is safe, and so we're thankful for that. Gender-based violence survivor said that in 𝗓𝗠 I found a home, a sisterhood, and myself. And really just a story of how she was able to rediscover who she is again, reestablish her identity, a sense of self, and found family at 𝗓𝗠. So we're so grateful for that. The last one I want to read to you is an abuse and trauma survivor. She said that I was helpless, hurt, and embarrassed. After 𝗓𝗠, I'm healed from my shame and guilt. And that is just such a wonderful testimony of finding freedom from the oppression that comes with abuse and harassment. And so we're just so thankful for these things. I'm going to now hand over to 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you everyone again. I just want to touch on, with the 5 minutes that is left, I just want to run through the impact of gender-based violence and harassment, especially at the work environment. Because we know that this is something that is that goes in deep. And like Lindo said earlier, the reporting becomes a challenge to women. So, but first, I'd like us to start with understanding the harassment in a workplace. How do we experience this? We experience it in various of ways. It can be misuse of power, verbal harassment, physical harassment, and visual harassment. What is sexual harassment, verbal harassment, and cyber harassment? I'll quickly just go back. If you can go back to the previous slide, Kathy. What is the misuse of power? For instance, your supervisor or your manager is someone who is misusing his power. He can give you unrealistic demands, looking for in order for you to be able to do your job appropriately. And also, like some things like not following proper procedures. You'll find that there is a certain procedure of how to do things, but he will come on top of you and say, no, this is not what I want you to do, but this is how I want you to do it. And you sort of argue your case, this is not the way. That's how normally misuse of power. And second one is verbal harassment, such as offensive comments or jokes, shaming and embarrassing, insulting threats. For instance, someone can say something and say that it's a joke, and he didn't realize that it was a joke, or sometimes he intended it as a joke. It's also a form of harassment. And we need, as women, just like Lindo said, we need as women to report these things. We need people like HR, or even if when there is no HR, someone that you are close to that you can report these cases. Physical harassment, unwanted touching, assault, such as assault or physical intimidation. Visual harassment, such as sharing with you inappropriate images, messages, or posters that are not welcome, that makes you feel small and unwarranted. Sexual harassment, I think most of us can remember last year there was a case of a judge of a case of sexual harassment. We witness it all, such as an example as unwarranted sexual advances, such as again sending comments which are sexual in nature, or jokes or behaviors. These are absolutely no. And as women, we need to take a stand on this. And then psychological harassment. Psychological harassment can include things like criticism, belittling you, calling you names, and isolating. For example, in a project, you'll find that you are the only one who has been excluded. Cyber harassment, we all know that which is rife nowadays, such as social media, emails, and messaging app. That's where this is found. And these are threatening and offensive digital images. So these, we need to, as organization, we need to send standards that curbs all of these things, so that as employees, as women, we can feel safe to report all of this. Because all of this, all this impact, the harassment and the abuse, if they are not reported early, they can cause psychological impact on us women and even men as well, because it doesn't only affect women, it also affects men as well, such as impact on cognitive function, impact on cognitive function. It includes things like not being able to concentrate of your work. Either you're experiencing abuse from home, like Lindo stated earlier. you won't be able to function optimally and to make the decisions that you are expected to make. So a workplace needs to create a safe space for you to be able to share this so that they can support you and provide you with help. Shame and guilt. You know, the feeling of shame and guilt, it's such a sad and deep feeling for individuals to go through, because when you are feeling shame and guilty, everything, you sort of isolate yourself, because you are thinking that they all know, they can all see me, what they know what has happened to me. Low self-esteem and self-worth. We know what this means as ladies. Feeling of worthlessness, helplessness. And all of these things, they lead into a difficulty of trusting individuals, trusting people, even our supervisors, our fellow employees, even our husband. Imagine when things like this are happening from work and it's been, the perpetrator is a male. Obviously, you're going to have difficulty of relating with your husband. So it affects all of our lives. Earlier on, Kathy stated that, you know, all the GBV and harassment can lead to depression and anxiety. I've already spoken about hopelessness. Again, feelings of sadness, low self-esteem, generalized anxiety, not knowing who to trust. Ultimately, the feeling of, I'd rather just end it all. It's like I'm the only one who is going through this, which may lead into suicide. Post-traumatic stress disorder is intrusive thoughts, because this thing, it has a tendency of playing in our mind over and over again and causes nightmares so that we can't sleep. It affects our sleep, and flashbacks, fear, and hypervigilance. All of these things, they need to be addressed. Hence, it is very critical when you experience this. We need to report this, and organization needs to. I'm so encouraged and by WiMSA, because the mining industry has created this platform for women to be able to vent out, to share what their experience in that they're going through. Hence, early intervention is needed for safety and healing. Because if it's not done, if you're experiencing this and there is no immediate help, harassment seeks to escalate, and we know that control always escalates. What can you do as organization? This is just to give you examples. What can you implement, policies and procedures in your organization? For example, like this platform that gives women voice, breaking the stigma through breaking the stigma and supporting survivors. How do we do this? We do this through educational programs, counseling and support, and psychological support and support groups. By education, what do I mean? I mean that we, as an organization, you run an awareness program for each and every employee about the stigma, about firstly, what is GBVH and what are the stigma, and how can the survivors be helped. And how do we do this? We engage in this through giving awareness programs in corporations, incorporation organization, in university campus, ECDs, and these awareness initiatives, they focus to highlight, to bring the GBVH people to talk, to start talking, because if it's not hidden, if people start to talk about it, we normalize. And in a way, we are helping the survivors to be able to feel supported and to talk about this. Second one is counseling and psychological support. We spoke about mental health. Whether you're experiencing it at home or even at the organization, it's bound to affect your mental health. Without your mental health, you won't be able to do anything. You won't be able to function at work. You won't be even to function even as a mother or as a as a mother to, or as a wife or a husband. So we promote the importance of seeking help early so that we can normalize therapy. We know, especially in our own area, I see that I'm running out of time. I'm going to say in our Black community, therapy, counseling was something that was not there. But we used to speak to our grandparents and our aunts and so on, but therapy is there. We need to speak to people who have been trained about these things. Small support groups. Support groups are a place where especially the victim can feel supported, can feel that I'm not the only one who is going through this. Other people, so that you can share and help each other to heal. And thus, it's not, it doesn't run on its own. It runs concurrently with counseling and support groups. Yes, I think you can go to the next one. Again, I've already spoken about the role of community. The role of what can you do as an organization? Number one, you've got to ensure that your first-time respondent are there and they are trained. They're able to provide support and healing. Second one is creating a safe and supportive environment. Like this platform. It's a platform where you can share and you can talk. Ensuring that this one is the ultimate one, confidentiality and respect. As a victim, when I come to you, I don't ask you to go and tell the whole world or tell the organization. I come to you because I trust you, because something that has happened to me is something that needs to be handled with care, supported, and respect. You can, again, I've already spoken about training professionals and offering educational and awareness programs. And the most important thing is to have policies and procedures in our organization which support the safety of victims and women in general. Next slide. Wow, thank you. I'm sorry again, I ran about, I think about 2 or 3 minutes. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for an opportunity. And I hope that this information will help you. And we will start to feel that we are supported and we can be able to report what is happening in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tumhawu. We really, really appreciate your presence and we appreciate this presentation. We are going to open up to a Q&A, and that is if there are no questions on the chat. You know, what I picked up from this conversation is, you know, speaking out and being encouraged to speak out. And the truth of the matter is, it isn't everybody that is, for a lack of a better term, bold enough to share their experience and to speak about things. Because, you know, in so many instances, when you speak about being a survivor or a victim of gender-based violence, you then become, you know, the poster child. It's like you become a face of that thing, and then people are now looking at your case and your having reported and how, you know, that outcome is going to be like. And we're speaking to the anecdotes. If in a particular workplace we know that, you know, because we speak as women, there's a particular case of bullying, for an example, that is going on. We sort of set you know, expectations and an example from what we know. We want to see, how is Mapaseka's case going to be handled and so forth, and how organizations handle that then becomes, you know, the precedents that they set. If they offer that justice, it encourages people to speak out. And when it speaks to counseling, you know, I am a survivor of gender-based violence myself, and I was offered counseling when I went to the hospital. And to be quite honest, I went for the first session because it was mandatory. I couldn't leave the hospital without going through the counseling, but I quit after then, because I felt that this thing is not going to help me at all. The counselor is already telling me things that I know. I must forgive myself. I mean, what did I do wrong? You get what I mean? But then over time, whether I saw it or not, it affected me. It affected how I view the world, my perception, especially towards men. And although I then, at a later stage in my life, when I was a little more comfortable speaking, I then saw the benefits of therapy. So with that, I'll ask the first question to you, Mapaseka, and the colleagues from Mohau, to say, when a person feels, you know, uncomfortable because now they fear secondary victimization, they fear being the poster child and, you know, the face of gender-based violence or harassment or bullying, how do you then say Mohau as an external NPO is the space at which they can trust? How can they reach out to you, whether at the first stage or at a later stage, where they can say, now I am comfortable with speaking? How does Mohau work? Are the fees and costs that are, you know, related to the services that you offer?
Thank you for that question. Firstly, we have a saying that you shouldn't let any fees to stop you from coming to counseling. And for our focus is GBV and femicide. All of these cases, if you can see our stats, most of these women, they are women who cannot afford to pay counseling, but we don't stop you from coming because we understand that what you need, you don't need, you need to be healed, you need to talk, you need to be loved, because that you need to be trained again how to love yourself, because you are not alone. We as Mohau will come and support you and walk with you. Most of these women who couldn't even pay, we have worked with them for a period of 3 years because we understand that this is trauma, and trauma cannot be healed by 1 session or 2 sessions. We walk with you up until you are healed, up until you are ready. Finances or how much counseling it can be. We have a system in which supports all of these cases which are coming through. We have donors who support victims, like we have systems like which support, we ask individuals, donors, to support one counselor to come across a victim, so that that victim can be able to go through the process. I think, Kathy, you can come in, and Caroline, in support of that.
Yeah, thank you, Mapaseka. And so because we want to make it available to everybody, we have a a donation-based counseling system. So we encourage everybody to come, and we ask you to give, especially in the area of gender-based violence and abuse and trauma, we ask you to give what you can towards the counseling sessions. And every time you give, you're enabling someone else to also come through the door for counseling. So it's a privilege to be able to do that, and we want to keep on doing it as long as possible. And so you can contact us, and you can start the process and figure out where you'd fit and how we would go about the funding and the fees for the sessions. And I think, Linda, you talked about how to reach out to us. You could always just go to our website, which is 𝗪𝗏𝗡𝐻𝑐𝗔𝗫, and contact us there via email, and we will liaise with you on how things might work. Maybe just to say, Turu asked a question on the chat about early, how do we, sorry? Or do you want to say something?
No, it's okay, you can carry on.
You are breaking just a bit.
Oh, is it? Sorry. Can you believe it? Can you hear me now? Is it better? More clear?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I asked a question about how to enable, how do we address the issue of male, the way men are learning to treat women within our South African context, and just notice and making a point of the fact that early education and role models are so important. And so the more men that we have in our communities that step up and don't objectify, don't harass, who treat women with dignity and respect, the more we're going to see young men growing up into men who show respect to others. And so it's so important that we expose our kids, our children, our families to healthy role models of how to engage with women. But not only that, it's how we treat ourselves as well, how we engage with them, how we communicate value to them, that is going to bring about change. And because part of the cycle is also that I don't expect to be treated in a way that is, showing me respect. It's okay to be treated in a disrespectful way. And so part of that is also what my expectation is. And if a man or someone doesn't treat me respectfully, then I need to say, that's not okay. That's not what communicates my value to anybody else. And so I think it's both and those things. I don't know if you want to add to that, Maps.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can respond to Jumi, she asks, does Mohau have any other location offices? No, we don't, but we have an online counseling as well, if that helps. Because most of our clients are not only from Midrand, we have clients who are coming from all over, and we attend to them through online counseling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mapaseka. Thank you so much, Kathy. And thank you, Mohau, overall. Thank you for grounding us in this human dimension of the issue. We have heard about the healing, we have heard about the stigma, and we have heard about the psychological cost of the silence. And allow us now just to shift from understanding the impact to examining the accountability and prevention at operational and leadership levels. And for that, we will bring upon the panelists for us. Allow me to formally introduce our panel for this evening's discussion. Ladies, if you may come up front. I've got with us a team of incredible ladies. This panel will be joined by Lindo, as she will be still co-hosting with myself, and we will be joined by Beauty as well. We've got also Elaine from Fraser Alexander, and Beauty from the Mine Health and Safety Council. And I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves within 2 minutes. Elaine, we're going to start with you that side.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Hope
Yes,
so.
we can.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. So, sorry, I'm talking from my phone because for one or other reason my computer's camera is not working. So, as 𝗚𝗕𝗩 said, I'm from 𝗪𝗏 Alexander. I'm my background is legal. I started as a prosecutor, and for the last 13 years, I've been in the mining environment. But where I started was in Soweto. The courts that I run was actually the rape court matters. So specifically focusing on children as well. You know, so Mondays to Fridays, rape, Thursdays and Tuesdays, children rape matters. So this really is very close to me. It actually, during the period that I started, I also started with the 𝗪𝗏𝗪 clinic. So that is when I started to be involved with it. So this is really, really close to my heart. And myself and my daughter, both of us, are also survivors of gender-based violence. So yes, for a variety of reasons, I'm really interested in this topic, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. We're looking forward to having this engagement with you. We've got also Beauty from the Mine Health and Safety Council, who will anchor our discussion in the guidance note and regulatory expectations. Beauty, can you come forth and just introduce yourself to us?
Good evening, colleagues, and thank you for inviting me. It's a privilege for me to be part of this discussion. I am Beauty Sinabe, as it was introduced. I actually currently chair the committee that is called Women in Mining Advisory Committee at the Mine Health and Safety Council, which is actually fully embedded into tripartism, where we work with employers, organized labor, and state within the committee itself to address women in mining issues, including gender-based violence and femicide issues. And basically, I think as we go on with the discussion, we'll unpack the initiatives that we engaged into to address the matter of gender-based violence and femicide. That's from me.
Thank you so much, Beauty. We're looking forward for your contribution from the perspective of a safety practitioner as well. I will also be stepping in here and there. Before we begin, I'd like to frame this discussion clearly. From a safety perspective, unreported risk is an unmanaged risk, as we said. In mining, if a hazard exists but not captured in the system, we cannot apply the controls. The same should apply with the gender-based violence and harassment. And tonight we are examining the gap just between the anecdotes, as Lindo has indicated before, and reporting, and what that gap means for safety culture, what that gap means for accountability and for the leadership maturity within the mining industry and within the environment as a whole. And Beauty, I'd like to start with you from your side, from a regulatory or from the Mine Health and Safety Council. From your perspective, what are the most critical implementation gaps observed since the release of the GBVF guidance notes from your side?
Thank you for that question. The challenge that we are experiencing since actually I must start by expressing that the Women in Mining Advisory Committee itself was established in 2020 during COVID. So we basically have about 6 years so far, but within that 6 years, we have been able to successfully develop a guidance note on gender-based violence and femicide management and management of safety and security challenges for women in the mining industry. This emanated from research that was performed in the industry to address the safety and health challenges that women are experiencing in the industry. So that helped in many ways, because then we're able to talk to tangible outcomes of research. But one thing that we realize is that there's still a gap in women reporting incidences. And also there's still a gap in mines reporting incidences that are occurring at their sites. Now, what we did was that we are working on a system to make sure that ultimately it becomes possible for mines to report to the Mine Health and Safety Council. But we are encouraging also within the mining sector that employers should create systems where victims are able to report, whether they want to disclose their names or not, but reporting systems must exist. You know, sometimes I can just give an example. There are times when, though I'm working in a policy space, there are times when people would refer people to me who are going through those experiences. And when you deal with those people, you would hear them saying, please don't tell anyone about my situation. And the minute a person speaks like that, it stifles our ability to make sure that the interventions happen and there's resolution of the challenges. So the gaps that we see, it's mainly the non-reporting by victims, either because they are scared of being victimized by the institutions where they work, or being discriminated against, you know, or just, you know, being labeled, or basically because of the fact that they are afraid. You know, they were talking about it from how it's a journey that you need somebody to walk with you. But currently, we are trying to close those gaps by making sure that ultimately we negotiate with the industry to say, look, let's make reporting a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As you know, we see your hand. We will acknowledge hands very soon. Alternatively, you may share the questions on the side. Beauty, you did mention that there is a gap. There is a serious gap, and we can tell that just from what Lindo has mentioned previously and from the presentation that we have seen with regard to the stats within the South African context. So reporting systems must exist in the mining industry. And from Elaine, with this regard, I'm going to come towards your side, just so you enlighten us from an operational and leadership perspective. What do you think makes a formal reporting of GBV and harassment difficult, particularly now that we know we are working in a male-dominated environment? Elaine, if you are talking, you are on mute from our side. Maybe
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm struggling with that little thingy. No, thank you for the question, Mpumlani. So I think the reporting, I think it was touched on by Moao as well as our previous speaker, who some of the issues that really, really makes it very difficult is working in a male-dominated environment. I mean, there is fear of retaliation, there's fear of aggression, there's fear of further abuse of making a report or addressing this issue. I mean, I heard that people, you know, we can't report it, we can't make it official, I mean, and then take it further. We can't even address it as an incident because people are too scared to address it. So my concern is then, you know, knowing what I know and hearing what I heard is how do we address it? Is it possible to work through and you know, when that person reported and when such a person says, please don't take it any further or don't tell anyone, can't we work on an anonymous basis? But the problem again is it goes back to a person that conducted that behavior, that conducted him or herself in such a behavior that made this person threatened. So for me, it's really, really an issue that how do we protect that person at the end of the day? Make that person feel safe and tell that person, we will walk with you this road. I understand if you don't want to report it today, maybe next week, but in the meantime, we can start with a process where we guide you and provide you some safe, a place where you feel safe, and that we can provide you with, what's the word I'm looking for? Therapy, so that that person become confident in what he or she is doing is the right thing. I know we're talking about gender-based violence, but it has been mentioned that men also fall into that category. And I just want to share a story. At my previous workplace, which was also a mine, I was shocked to learn that one of the people that sat in Exco was actually, the first time that she spoke out was like 15 years later than the incident happened. And she was high up, as I said, in the mining industry. She started right down under in the mining tunnels, and she never spoke about what happened. And it really impacted on how she approached people, how she approached men specifically. So how do we address it? If there are any questions or comments, you're more than welcome to add to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elaine. And I think listening to you, you're also highlighting the aspect of the fear of reporting. And sometimes that fear, it also emanates from how we respond when the victim comes and report the case. And as you were talking, it took me back to Mapaseka's presentation that talks to training of the first-time responders. We need to be able to be at a space where we are making them feeling comfortable. We are making them feeling that they can trust us when they come to report these situations. I don't know if you've got any comments, Lindo, before we move on to the systems and accountability aspect.
I think both speakers have touched on very important matters, and I'll just sort of bring them around to one. Especially for people such as Beauty, as well as Elaine, where a lot of times when you are a woman in mining, whether forming part of a women in mining forum or a committee, people look at you as that safe space, and they will come to you. It happens to me a lot, and they tell you what has happened to them. They let you know their experiences, but that is not a formal report. And because it's not a formal report, it then limits what can be done. So bringing that in, I'm bringing in the importance of, formal reporting, even if it is at an internal mechanism, if it's available in that particular operation from an anonymous point of view, even if you don't say your name and who you are, but share that experience on that particular grievance mechanism. Or, for example, there is a lady here, Queen, who said that she runs an NPO doing similar work to Mohau in the mining area around Rustenburg in Moino. So you may not report to your operation, right? And you report to the NPO that Valerie is running, but it is a mining host community. And because the mining, houses in host communities also work with the NPOs, it's important that those experiences go there so that the mining operations or workplaces rather are able to gauge the prevalence and the patterns of gender-based violence. Because as Tiru said on one of the comments online, when there is no, and Sino also touched on this, when there is no report and it's not formal, it gives the idea that there is no incidents at all. And a lot of the mining operations actually report as that as zero. When in actual essence, when we look at the reality on the ground as a country, it absolutely cannot be true that all of a sudden when it comes to within the mining gates, we are now immune to gender-based violence and harassment. So with that, I think it's very important that there be that training with the first responders, whether it's a woman in mining forum or it's a mechanism, so that when the people report to you, whether formally or it's in an anecdote, it is going to be structured in a way that it's going to feed back into the industry as information that will then shape the programs that we run and the initiatives that we then say we are doing as an industry, so that it's not a matter of, I think this is what we do or we should do, but rather it's backed up by information and data that is out there.
Thank you, Lindo. Very profound. And, you know, one takeaway we are getting is it's going to take a whole community in this journey. We're going to need to hold our hands together, and we train and educate each other on GBV and harassment and what to look out for. We've got some of the individuals that don't even understand different aspects of GBV. Most of the people, when they think of GBV, they are only thinking physical and sexual. And if we go back to the presentation from Mohawu, they listed a whole number of aspects on how you can be impacted by GBV. But it's going to need a whole lot of awareness from us, and we will be undergoing a series of sessions just to unpack GBV aspects. And if we move to the systems and accountability, Beauty, I'm going to come back to you now. How do you think that how should the mines embed gender-based violence and harassment prevention within the existing mine health and safety management systems, so that it is treated as a core risk and not a parallel initiatives? Because right now it seems like it is a parallel initiatives. It's not at the top of an agenda like any other core risks that we have within the mining operations.
Thank you for that question. Within the Mine Health and Safety Council context, initially, this was actually Women in Mining was actually a technical committee within the Culture Transformation Committee. But because of the significance of the challenges that women in mining are faced with, they ultimately had to make sure that there's an independent committee that is established, which advises the board and finally the minister on what is happening with women in mining issues, including gender-based violence and femicide and safety and security issues of women. So in terms of how do mines ensure that there is implementation of, for example, the policy framework that exists. Remember, this guidance note was developed based on national policy and international policy. So from a policy side, we cannot give an excuse that we don't have a framework to work within. We clearly have a framework to work within. I think it just takes management to take responsibility for it and be able to realize that genuinely women in mining issues are not a side item, including gender-based violence and femicide. They are part of safety and security challenges that are faced in the mines, and they need to be addressed as such. And there has to be a line management system that is clear, that women are able to say, I know I can speak to this person in my organization and it's safe to do so, and I know my case will not be swept under the carpet. That is a journey that we need to travel together as stakeholders. And within the council, we have the advantage of having organized labor, we have the advantage of having employers, and we also have the advantage of having state represented. So that is a journey that we are walking. But fortunately, we have successfully had within our regions in the mines, regional chairpersons within the Women in Mining forums, who people can be able to approach. And when those people get those cases, they are able to speak to our inspectors within the different regions. And those cases are taken up and are addressed as a safety and security risk. And we need to remember that risk assessment doesn't only get limited to other aspects. It includes even the issue of gender-based violence and femicide. And that is why we took it seriously enough to develop this guidance note.
Thank you so much, Beauty. Yes, the note is there, the systems are there, but I think what's standing out here is management must take responsibility for all this. And, you know, we've got, like you said, we've got organized labors, we've got employers, we've got different tripartites that we need to make use of and take advantage of. So it takes management to step up and prioritize GBV, put it on risk assessments just like they do with other core risks and hazards that they enlighten on the risk assessments. And going back to operations now, Elaine, now that Beauty has enlightened us on the systems from the regulatory, according to you, or from what would you recommend, or from what you have seen, any practical steps that operations can take just to strengthen the trust in reporting mechanisms and ensure that the psychological safety of employees is guarded?
Thank you. So I think there's a few that one can look at, is on how to de-risk reporting channels, adopt a survivor-centered approach within a framework. And for me, one of the important ones is the transparency and accountability, because employees only trust systems that they believe that they see is working and acting upon their issues. So, for example, if we say, that we are going to share anonymous information with the department, for example. So we say, you said it, we did it. We make a commitment to those people that we are protecting them, that we are actually reporting on issues, even though we are doing it anonymously. We should have a zero tolerance for any retaliation. So if a person reports it, and it comes out to the person who actually conducted him or herself, that, even if it's the most important person in that company, I'm thinking of this headmaster of one of the very important schools in Pretoria, who was actually sort of protected before he was taken to task. I mean, there should be a zero tolerance. It should be equal on board for everyone. So enforce strict disciplinary measures against the person that conducted him or herself like that. And there should be visible leadership commitment. So even the senior leaders should take accountability and lead everyone else and say, I'm taking the first step in making a difference in this company, looking out for women. So I'm doing this training course. Show everyone that I'm attending a training course to make myself more aware of what is going on. How do I treat women? Or how do I treat a victim of GBVH? How do I attend to it? How do I, what type of training do I need? What type of resource do we need at the work? But let leadership take accountability for that. I still have a lot to say, but I'm sure other people want to add.
Thank you so much. I think the message is there's synergies within these messages that you guys are sharing with us. You're talking about transparency and accountability and visible leadership commitment. And Beauty has indicated previously that in grading operations. In grading the environment within the operations, we always integrate environmental risks, physical hazards, and equipment risks into structured management systems. But gender-based violence and harassment should not be different. And as we stand, most of the mining houses, GBV is treated differently. We feel that it must be integrated within the risk registers. It must be integrated within the audits. within the leadership walkabouts and within the toolbox talks as well. And that will also align with the awareness that we're busy pushing. But over and above that, maybe perhaps even in the chats, we would like to know what other leading indicators should the industry begin to track just to demonstrate proactive
I think we've lost Wumbude.
We speak about just culture, a culture where people can report near misses without fear. So if employees do not feel psychological safe to report harassment, then we do not have a mature safety culture. Lindo, I'm going to hand over to you just to hear your thoughts there.
I thought we had lost you there for a moment. But I think what the ladies have said literally covers what we all know and what we all think. We are in an industry that is highly hierarchical. And, one of the leading practices from a Minerals Council point of view that we usually use example of is one of the CEOs from one of the big mining companies has on their performance appraisal women in mining and gender-based violence matters. So sometimes what is important from a leadership and accountability point of view is leaders that take a step that also impacts them. I know that in our industry, everybody literally, not even only in our industry, but people work for their bonuses. People want at the end of the year to have that money that shows. So to have a CEO or a C-suite level person have women in mining as part of their KPIs, that if women in mining and the indicators that have been set for women in mining are not met, they are also impacted in their performance. They are also impacted as far as their bonus is concerned. One of the great, ideas that came from one of the conversations that we were having as, women in mining and what we can do as an industry. Someone said it would be important over time to embed, how when someone is about to be hired, there are those psychometric exams and tests that have case studies and scenarios. To have harassment, to have GBV, to have bullying as part of those scenarios, to see, how a person perceives these issues, how they would react in an environment or in an incident where there's harassment. What are their thoughts around it? So that even as we are hiring within our industry, we know the state of mind of people. And I'm bringing this because we've seen in other cases where someone is a perpetrator in one company and they either resign or whatever happens with the disciplinary hearing. But then they find work in another, mining company. So it is such gaps, that I think Sis Beauty also really spoke to say, as an industry, we do need to streamline how we work. If I'm saying I'm going to report an incident of gender-based violence in my operation, yes, there is a reporting mechanism, but do I know about it? Do I know how it works? Do I know what to expect? If they are saying I am supposed to speak to Sino, is Sino trained? Can I trust Sino with this information? Do I know the process from end to end? What should I expect? Is there going to be a disciplinary hearing? How does that look like? And what is the process? That then builds that confidence for a person to say, I know what I'm expecting. I know what I'm getting myself into. And such processes and leading practices should then be streamlined as an industry so that we are all moving from the same scale of gravitas. I do know that one operation from the next can differ, but then I do think that there are more similarities from industry than differences, and we can then learn from each other in that point of view.
Well said, Lindo. Thank you so much. And Peter, I don't know if you want to add from that. There is more emphasis on training and more emphasis on awareness and having first-time responders from our side. When the person reports, they need to be comfortable on who they're going to report to. And they need to know and understand what they will be facing once they go through that reporting process. Mphathi, I don't know if you want to add anything with regard to any leading indicators that you feel that the industry should begin tracking.
Definitely. In as much as they say prevention is better than cure, we may feel like we are delayed in doing that prevention, but we are not, because entry of women in the industry is still continuing. So it is important for us to emphasize the issue of, if you check our guidance note, we have actually required that, gender-based violence training should be part of induction when a person is going into the mine. So those are some of the issues that we are trying to raise the standard with, to say, let it be part of normal discussions among both genders, to say it is important to equip people when they are entering into the industry so that they know how to be able to respond when such incidents happen. But the other thing that I also realize is also not to just demonize all men. One of the ways in which we can also be able to conquer this is to also infiltrate the men's forums, where we talk about these issues interchangeably, openly. Because in the industry, we have encouraged the issue of men's forums, where people, who are male and are not abusers, come up and say, look, we are here and we respect the dignity of women within our industry. We see them as fellow professionals, and we are prepared to grow together with them. So those are positive steps that we can also leverage on, to say, look, let's work in an integrated manner to make sure that both genders work together to counter gender-based violence and femicide, and not be reactive only. Thank you.
Thank you, 𝗪𝗻beauty. I think you mentioned it quite well. You covered it quite well. I think we need our male counterparts as well as allies, and we need to work collectively as a team. And I'm gonna take it now just to a legal space of it, Elaine, from a legal leadership lens. How should the organizations balance confidentiality, fairness, and accountability when managing reported incidents?
Thank you. Thanks. So I think that confidentiality is one of those tricky little things that we sometimes, it is sometimes used as a stick. So a person is being dismissed, or this person leaves the company. There's a confidentiality agreement. Most of us have it in our employment agreements. I hope so. And then there's also something called 𝗏𝗶𝗏. You can't just share information with other people, save if it complies with either consent, contract, or in the legal interest. So when it comes to criminality, that should be an exception. We can't just allow, like one of the previous speakers said, allow a person to resign and then go to another workplace. I mean, in criminal law, it is reportable in many countries, and I'm aware that, I'm not sure whether they did start it actually in South Africa, but it's really a serious offense. So why would we in the mining industry then protect such a person under the auspice of either it's personal information or there's an NDA? That can't be allowed. There should be exceptions to it. So that is the one. So looking at protecting privacy while managing risk. So we protect the victim. We protect the victim, but making sure I wanted to say earlier something. So in the criminal court, there is something like testifying in camera. Testifying in camera means there's no one else present, save for the victim and the accused, and then the necessary legal persons. And sometimes it goes even so far that the person that is the victim doesn't testify in court, but in camera. So using that type of mechanisms to keep a victim safe. And maybe that is how far we should go in order to protect that person, is to think, how do we protect a person? I'm using the word in camera, it doesn't mean that that is what we need to do. But thinking a little bit beyond, outside of the box, in just writing a report, because I know with the incident, doing a Section 11, doing a Section 65 in terms of the Mine Health and Safety Act, we have to tick all the boxes, go through the questions and report everything that happened. Now, this is the same thing that we are seeking to do, but how do we protect the victim? And that is what we don't want to expose the victim, because it is very difficult for that person to walk in the corridors of the mining environment and know, it was mentioned before, how do you turn people's minds if it's already so entrenched within them? Then I want to go back to the men. I know really, really good men. There's a drive in South Africa of the fatherless sons, fatherless boys. There are men that are taking hands, black and white, it doesn't matter. I met this incredible person that is really making a difference. And those are the type of people that we need to engage with. And I believe they are in the mining industry as well. So I've talked about confidentiality, and I actually spoke about fairness as well. So we have to remember that there should be due process for everyone. We have to remember that if a person makes an accusation, that other person is not necessarily guilty from the start. We have to consider that as well. I was previously in a situation, well, not me, but a colleague, when I was still prosecuting, that a girl who was angry with her boyfriend actually opened the case of rape against the boyfriend and 12 of his friends for gang rape. Those 13 boys were found guilty. A year later, she came back to the court and she said, I was actually very upset with my boyfriend. So you don't want to land in a situation like that. So follow due process. Make sure that the facts that we have and what we report on is correct. And we do not just make a judgment call, but we do it with grace. That is what we need to do, and consistent application. I think it goes back to the previous thing that I've already said. So it doesn't matter who that person is, either the highest or the lowest or in the medium. Doesn't matter who that person is and who the victim is. Everything should be consistently applied. Okay, thank you.
Consistency, and consistency. I think you've said it quite well. And again, the other thing that you've said, it's the partnership aspect. We also need to look at what our male allies are doing. Let's also consider, how can we partner with them? How can we join hands and fight this GBV journey that we are working on? But guys, I'm checking the chats here. It's booming. We've got great engagements that are happening in the chats. I think we've got Teru here saying the consequences of underreporting has a ripple effect. We need safe systems that have adequate resourcing at the mine. There is effective resolution and confidentiality is assured. In addition, underreporting also does not provide the accurate pictures to mobilize resourcing and give the issue to prominence in relation to health and safety. Also, reporting on the resolution of cases is important to communicate anonymously. Examples of how issues have been resolved effectively and communicate this widely in the organization can ensure that the issue is treated with importance and sends a message to the perpetrators that this will be dealt with the seriousness it deserves. I think that is very important. We will go through more of the comments that are there and the questions very soon. We have reserved the last 15 minutes for that. I think if we go to forward-looking action from our panelist, Beauty, I'm going to start with you at that side. What should the operations and the mines expect in the next GBVF implementation plan submission cycle under the guidance note that you guys are working on?
Thank you for that. I would actually turn it around to say, what should the mines do to make sure that the guidance note work for our industry and work optimally? Because the fact that the guidance note has been released is a step forward. The fact that the Chief Inspector of Mines supported us in this initiative, and he is actually the one who continuously wants to hear more, to say what's up with the women in mining issues. That is a plus from a regulator's perspective. But the implementation part is critical, because while the guidance note exists, unless it is taken as seriously as it should, then it is as good as not existing. So what I would say is that in the next few years, we are anticipating a situation where within the council, there will be better reporting, and the better reporting will help us in terms of being able to localize the challenges and address them effectively. Because once the reporting happens, even if it's anonymous, at least we'll be able to know which mine is it happening at, or which company is it happening at, and we are able to follow through to say, how do we work together to make sure that we curb the situation so that women have the safe space where they work, and gender-based violence and femicide is actually eradicated in our industry. I think the guidance note itself, it's like a starting point to say, look, we are working on tangible reporting systems. We are even working on a dashboard system at the Mine Safety Council, an information management system, where we are going to expect mines to report their cases, and so that we can be able to analyze that information and be able to formulate solutions to address challenges that we are faced with on GBVF, but also to curb it. Because we want to contain it. We want to make sure that it becomes normal for women to work in our industry without being harassed.
Thank you, Ma'am Beauty. You said it quite well. We need the operations to step forward. We need management to step forward. We need compliance, actually, if I put it that way. Lindo, I'm not sure if you want to add from what Ma'am Beauty has just enlightened us on.
She has said it beautifully, to say having the guidance note is a win. It's a step in the right direction. But if there isn't participation from the companies and the mining operations, it's as good as not being there. Because what really matters is the implementation part. The guidance note does require that mining companies, all of them in South Africa, submit annually an implementation plan with accordance to the 6 pillars of gender-based violence, to say, as far as Pillar 1 on leadership accountability, this is the initiative or the program that I'm going to run, and then be able to report on that at the end of the year to say, I committed in March, when I submitted to the Mine Health and Safety Council and DMPR to say, this is what I'm going to do, but have I been able to do that? That is where it is important. And last year was the first time at which companies were submitting their implementation plans. And this year will be the second time. And it is our responsibility, as 𝗪𝗠𝗎 respectively did say, that it's our responsibility to ensure that the beautiful step in the right direction doesn't die out of mining companies not being compliant. And I like that she said, in the long run, in a couple of years from now, we anticipate better reporting. In the line of work that we do, which is more social, it's not like production where we can be able to say, oh, this is the number of tons that have been, dug and so forth. Social impact doesn't show now. The impact of this particular webinar and that we're having now will show at a later stage that, oh no, people really were listening. People then were able to come forward. Companies were then able to have the second to actually submit on the second installation of the implementation plans. 𝗪𝗠𝗎 did say we work at a tripartite basis, and it is through WiMEC as the custodian of the guidance note that we push this work forward. We will continue with this work this year, and the workshop will be ran. If you are here participating in this room and you are one of the people that has been tasked with the work of the implementation plan, you are not alone. As a tripartite, we will host a workshop where we will guide you, because it's work of collaboration and partnership to say, now that we are here in 2026, this is what we've seen in the plans of 2025, but this is how we will be moving forward. So I'm encouraging people on this platform to anticipate the workshop that we will have within the second week of March, so that mining companies can be encouraged to report, to submit their implementation plans, but most importantly, to live up to what they have submitted to the Mine Health and Safety Council to say, we will do. At some point in time, maybe not in this generation, gender-based violence will be something of the past, because at some point in time, the industry did have safety issues where, people, the numbers were not correctly reported and so forth. But because people spoke out, but because there was so much, passion and so much work put into dedication, anyone you ask them in the mining industry now, they'll tell you the fatalities in numbers and the injuries. We will get to that point with gender-based violence where we have accurate and reliable data. And at any point in time, as a person will be able to give you the statistics of gender-based violence as a safety matter to say, this year in 2026, we've had, as an industry, 5 cases of gender-based violence and how they have been resolved. And ultimately, that is the goal that we are looking into as women in mining, but then generally as an industry as well.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Lindo and 𝗪𝗠𝗎. I think one thing we are getting is the guidance notice there. It's a win. What's left is the implementation part. We have already started. We have embarked on the journey. And one thing that I picked up here was the training that's going to take place within the second week of March. We must be in the lookout for it. If you have been tasked with implementation plan, with the task of submission of the implementation plan, the training will be available within the second week of March. I think we will join hands with WiMSA in that, just to socialize the dates of the training when it happens, so that it lands in March operations, it lands to the stakeholders where we want it to land. Then the training, a lot of people embark on the training. So Elaine, we have heard about the guidance notes being in place. We have heard that it's the implementation part that we need to start working on. So beyond policy and beyond compliance, for you, what does proactive prevention look like in a daily operational practice?
Thank you. So I think there are practical things that we can think about, so if we think beyond policy and compliance, and for me, it was thinking outside of the box, because I'm all about policy and compliance and legislation and things. So what can I do practically to make it safe for someone, for any person at the mine, for example. And one is maybe looking at the physical and digital workspaces of people. You know, for example, if a person comes early or leaves late, and that is often in the mining industry, are there well-lit parking lots? Are there cameras which we can see what is happening? You know, establishing clear online safety protocols for digital platforms where people engage with each other. I mean, we often work with teams, and there's something like an ethical behavior that we have to address when we address each other and how we approach each other in meetings. So have a buddy system, for example, for staff that leaves late, you know, or check up on each other. You know, if you know your colleague is leaving late, maybe at 6 at the office, not even at the mining area, check up on that colleague and ask, are you safely home? Especially if you know the route they are taking, or you know where they are traveling to. Also, I think it was already addressed on, you know, when you recruit a new person, the psychometric tests, make sure that the type of person that you want to appoint falls within the framework or the parameters that a person that we want to appoint, and, you know, that we know that we can work with and have safe boundaries within that person. So those are things that I'm thinking of. Also, training. So do consistent training with these people, with everyone at the mine. Train them and teach them what is GBVH. I also remember at one of my previous workplaces that when we actually started to engage with the men on GBVH, some of them said, oh, I didn't know that that is actually wrong. Everyone around me is doing that. So training, even if it's only a 5 to 10 minute scenario or training that we can do. So even if we have our mine health and safety, if we have our safety moments, a lot of the mines have at least once a week mine health and safety meeting. They have safety meetings in the morning, or, you know, when we have a quick meeting, just engage with people, just you know, do that little bit of training. Also, when you hear another person talking to another colleague in a way that they should not address them in such a manner, you know, they're making a whistle to a person, or they're making a derogatory comment, address that person. So I have this scenario that if you see someone else suffers, if you see an elephant standing on a mouse's tail, if you don't do anything, the elephant is still standing on a mouse's tail. So the only way that you are going to change it is to tell that elephant to step away, do something different. So address the issue at hand. Also, again, training of executives, training of leadership, people in leadership roles. Let them show the way to the rest of the people working in the mining industry. Now, and, you know, we address that as well. Support of the victim, support that person. Don't just say, oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry that this happened. Let's go and focus on something else. That person really needs support. Even on day one, that person does not necessarily know how much support he or she needs. But on the way, there's a long road of recovery. Who I mentioned 3 years, you know, and 3 years is then just at the end of the new beginning. So support of that person, and keep that person, keep the person that conducted himself in such a way accountable. I think that is one of the most important things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. We need to support each other. We need to be each other's keeper. One thing that you have said, you know, if you know you've got colleagues that are working late, check up on them, check up if they are safe wherever they are, how they are working, do they have a buddy with them, and so on. I know a lot of mining houses where we've got night shift, they are very strict with where the females' counterparts are working. Are they working with other counterparts? Are they not left alone? Are they safe wherever they are working? So this is incorporated within the risk assessment. It is incorporated within the site walkabouts that managements do. So we need all management levels, we need all operations to start embarking on this journey with us. I think we must look at some of the questions that are in the chat, taking coincidence of the time.
Yes, most definitely. And I was just responding to one question right now from Onati, who says, what happens if the situation doesn't change or there is nothing implemented after reporting gender-based violence at work? And I was just responding to her to say that I would advise an escalation externally. It's not all the time that you should be confined into the systems of your own operation. As 𝗪𝗠𝗠𝗃 said, there is the WiMSA structure that is designed to advocate for and assist women just outside of the mining gates. You are not being held at your operation. You've reported, but nothing is happening. You absolutely have every right to reach out to a WiMSA member and say, Beauty, you were part of the panel at the WiMSA workshop. This is who I am, and this is what is happening. We've got a variety of people in WiMSA, even in the legal aspects of things, that can then help you, even if it's anonymously. And as 𝗪𝗠𝗠𝗃 rightfully said, that, such reports then help, because then we are able to know that there is this particular matter or case in this particular operation, and we deal with that as is, even with the initiatives that are going to be ran, through the Mine Health and Safety Council or through the tripartite for that particular operation, will be a direct response to what we have seen, or rather what we have heard. So don't just confine yourself to, to the limitations of your operation. There are structures that are designed to help and to support you. And I'm not sure if 𝗪𝗠𝗠𝗃 would maybe like to come in with that question as well, to say, what can I do if I report at my operation and it is not taken seriously or nothing changes?
Thank you, Lindo, for the opportunity, and thank you, Umbu. And I think it's important to realize that we have diversified the networks of people that people can contact for that purpose, because experiencing gender-based violence is a very subjective encounter. For you to report, you need to feel safe. So you have the right to choose who to talk to when you feel unsafe, because it has to be somebody that you can trust and you can be able to open up to. So in our department, in the DMPR, we have the Gender and Transformation Unit, and Ms. Magdalene Mokoena is the director, and she is our line contact person. If you feel like, look, you're not comfortable to take it to the inspectors in the regions, or you're not comfortable to take it to your mine, you can be able to contact her via the Mine Health Safety Council. The Mine Health Safety Council has contact details of all WiMSA members, and even Women in Mining Forum regional chairpersons, they have their contact information. So if you do not know who is your WIM forum, regional managers forum has representative, you can contact the Mine Safety Council. They can be able to assist you, and you can be able to ultimately receive help. So it is important for us not to keep quiet. Silence is not an option, especially under the current circumstances. Silence is not an option. Find somebody that you feel safe to talk to. Reach out, even if it means going to the local police station and being able to talk to them and requesting help. Whatever it takes, do not keep quiet. Because once we keep quiet, we are encouraging GBVF to continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, 𝗪𝗠𝗪𝗂. Whatever it is, do not keep quiet. We want to know about it. Find someone you can report this to. I'm looking at the time now. We are running out of time. We've had such great engagements. Let's keep on communicating and sharing our insights and our questions via the chat. We will address all of the questions, and we please just asking you to just follow us on social media for more information. You can engage with us on info@wimsa.org.za. I think in just less than a minute, each of our panelists, if you can just, if you can just leave us with your last parting words on what does prevention in action look like, and how we can be there for each other as a community in us fighting GBV, in us curbing this GBV and harassment and putting controls in place. Elaine, I'm going to start with you. What are your parting words from us?
Thank you. I think we addressed most of it. But what we also should think about is the condition of that person when she arrives. Care for that person. Make sure that that person is looked after. Give that person a cup of tea, or just sit with that person. I think that is so important, because we are speaking of things that are regulated by law and which we are providing guidance to. But at the end of the day, we are sitting with a human being full of emotions and maybe even shock. So how do we approach that person, and how do we help her? And then we go to, how do we prevent it? What measures do we put in place? How do we implement that measures? How do we keep people accountable, and is there a sanction? Is it visible, that last point? Is it visible? Can other people see that we are taking action and it's visible, so that there is a detriment to anyone else who wants or even thinks of doing that? People should know that it's wrong. So those are my parting words. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elaine. We appreciate you, and thank you for making up the time. Sis Beauty, over to you.
Thank you very much. I first want to commend WiMSA for this initiative, because for a long time, most of these challenges, we have been addressing them, in groups and in certain sports and all that. Now that we are integrating the initiatives, I think we are closing the net on gender-based violence and femicide. And I would like to say that let us leverage on the current initiatives and make sure that they work for us in this industry. What I would like to also encourage is that where women have opportunity to be in management, please make sure that safety management systems do work for women, and especially eradicate gender-based violence and femicide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, 𝗪𝗠𝗪𝗂. We appreciate it. And just like she said, let us collectively use these opportunities to curb this challenge that we are faced with. And it is the first session, 𝗪𝗠𝗪𝗂. We're going to have a number of sessions. We've got a series throughout the year where we are addressing gender-based violence and harassment issues. So if you want to form part of it, reach out to us, engage with us, so that we get and we get to these issues together as a team. It will take a community for us to fight what we are faced with regard to gender-based violence and harassment. Lindo, any parting words from you?
I think my parting words would be that this is the first of a series, and the comments that we see, your discussions and your insights are exactly what are going to, direct where the series takes us. It's not just a matter of curating, a series on gender-based violence as a safety matter without hearing from you. It is your voice. It is your saying and your opinion that is going to build this series, and we want you to participate. But ultimately, we want you to be part of the movement that brings about the change that we want, because it starts with you. As cliche as it may sound, you are the change that you want to see. You act differently, you speak differently. People around you then take that as it goes, and they address you as such, and they learn from you. And that's the aura that we want to carry as women in mining, and that is the mandate at which we will continue to carry as WiMSA with the Voices for Safety campaign as far as GBV is concerned. Your insights are taken seriously, and you should never at some point in time feel as though this is another Stokvel for women to meet and to talk. You are helping us curate the initiatives that WiMSA are going to run for the year. It is your voice, it is your platform, and WiMSA is the organization for you.
Thank you so much, Lindo. And I like what Sinovuyo is saying in the chat. She is saying that gender-based violence cannot be addressed by women alone. Real transformation requires men in solidarity and willing to challenge the culture, protect reporting systems, and share accountability. Very true, Sino. It takes a whole community. We need our male counterparts as well. So we will be holding hands together and working together. In less than a minute, I remember that we said when we started the session, we have two tickets to the Empowered Big Break as an action of fighting GBV. This event will be happening at Sandton. So if you know that you can make it to Sandton on the 18th of March, Lindo, I was not really checking on the participation on the group, and I'm looking at the time. I don't know how we're going to sponsor these two tickets to two of our attendees tonight. I would say that if you're here and you want to be sponsored, maybe you can just raise your hand for the sake of time. You will stay behind, we will engage further, and we see how we carry on forward with these aspects. It's a lot of hands I see. We need to find a better way of managing this. We will look at it as we stay behind, but from my side, all I can say is zero harm must include dignity. We have listened to the conversation of tonight. We examined something that is often uncomfortable, but very necessary. We acknowledged that stories are circulating, systems exist, but trust determines whether harm becomes visible. We heard clearly that prevention requires leadership accountability, integrated safety systems, psychological safety, operational courage, and genuine transformation. So what we choose not to measure, we choose to tolerate. And what we tolerate, we normalize. If gender-based violence and harassment is excluded from zero harm, then zero harm is incomplete. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the Mine Health and Safety Council. Thank you to the Minerals Council of South Africa. Thank you to Mohau and to our operational leaders and to each attendee who chose to engage in this conversation tonight. We will discuss more details on how we're going to issue our tickets to the candidates that will be left behind. And once again, this is the beginning of the Voices for Safety journey. We will have a series of these sessions just to unpack more on GBV and harassment. So I want to say good night, and let us move from anecdotes to accountability action. Let us hold hands and towards the journey of fighting GBV. Thank you, colleagues. Have a great evening further as we stay behind with the WiMSA team and those that have raised hand.